Hello guys, welcome back to my channel. As promised, I'm here to share my testimony or my journey. I'm breaking them up into segments. I would actually be having other updates, of course, to talk about, the plant-based lifestyle. It's going really well for me. My body feels much better, so that journey is really worth it for myself. I can't force it on anyone else, but it has really truly helped me. So I'm going to continue it, and I'll be updating things like that later. But before, in the previous video, I mentioned that it's important that we share our stories with one another, and that sharing was caring. You never know who's going through the same thing, who might be getting ready to go through that thing, or who's currently in that thing. So we gotta be mindful of being of support. This is not easy for me. I've prayed about this over and over again, like, God, you really want me to do this? But it's not about me. It's about someone else that may need to hear what I have to say, and then that can help them along their way in their journey. So thank God for his blessings, for his protection, his mercy, and his grace. I'm so grateful. So I'm Latoya Willis. As you know, that's the name of my channel. However, I'm from Chicago, Illinois originally. I live in Texas now. I've been in Texas since 1990, so it's been a long time, right? I'm only 21. Okay, got that out the way. So let's go on to my mom. I'll start with her because it's just, I love her, So my mother was a young mom. She had 3 children at a young age. My oldest brother, he's 2 years older than I am. Then it's myself, of course, and then my youngest brother, he's 11 months younger than me. So we're like Irish twins. So the thing is, and she had those 3 children, I think she was 20 by the time she was 20. No older than 21. I believe she was 20. So just imagine having 3 children at that age. It's not easy. I don't care if it was in the 80s, the 90s, the 50s, 70s, even now. Like, it's extremely difficult to raise one child, but then you have 3. So, a lot of people may say, well, my goodness, what was going on with her? What happened? How did she end up with 3 children so young? So my mother did not have a great childhood. I'll just say it that way. It was difficult for her from the beginning. So at 6 months old, she ate some paint off the wall that had high content of lead, and that caused her to have these seizures all the way up until she was 17, and they just stopped. Thank God for that. At the moment, she had a break. But then they came back with a vengeance. That one seizure came back on August 18th, 1987, and that's what took her away from us. She was 27 years old, 2 weeks before her 28th birthday. At the time, my oldest brother was 10, I was 8, and my youngest brother was 7. It was extremely difficult. I can't even describe the pain that I felt at the time. I was the only girl, and I was the middle child, and I was really close with her. I admired her, even though I knew that how we were living wasn't the best, but she still was a superstar in my eyes. Like, that was my mom. I look like her. I have her face. Like, that's my best friend at the time, So it was really a difficult time for us. So with my mom, we lived in shelters. We lived in a lot of shelters. I'm not even exaggerating. I was a kid, of course, but it just felt like we probably hit up every shelter in Chicago. My mother wasn't stable. She dealt with some things mentally because she was raped by her own father. I don't know how many times. I just know she told me that she was. And she told me this after I was raped at 5 years old. And she confided in me and gave me that and told me that she know how I feel because it happened to her with her father. So I instantly understood. And I think that made our bond closer because my mom was trying to protect me by any means necessary. I'll get into that later. But as far as my mom and where we live, again, shelters, we stayed in abandoned buildings. We've had nights where we were at the bus stop or we would sleep on a lot of her some of her friends' couches, with their children, or my uncle Les at the time, we stayed with him for a period of time. And there was also even a moment where my mom and my grandmother went back and forth because they didn't have the best relationship. They loved one another, but it was tumultuous. It was not a healthy relationship. So my mother, would do everything she could to keep us together, but she didn't work. She got a job as a cosmetologist. She got a license, which was great because I love doing hair, and I think that's where I got my love from hair from, because she taught me a lot of what I know in the beginning. I was 6 years old putting an actual perm on a mannequin, like perm rods, and then I was braiding like hair with weave extensions at 6. Like I was like really getting it. So anyway, I learned some really great things from her. But we stayed, like I said, in these different places. There was no stability, so we didn't keep clothes, we didn't have toys. None of those things was something that we even want. Yeah, we wanted them, of course, but we didn't cry about them because we didn't have them. And also, my mother had children by 3 different men. My oldest father, mother's brother, his father, he knew who he was and dealt with him. My father, I was told I had 4 different fathers. And my youngest brother, he never knew his father. Unfortunately, my mom was with a guy who promised her he would marry her and take care of all of us. He was in the military, and that did not come to fruition. He actually left her. But she was pregnant with my brother when she met him, but she just believed him, and so she named my brother after him, which is why he does not bear our last name. It's just been something to think about when I reflect back on how she must have felt. So I do have a lot of compassion for her. I have a lot of empathy, and I love her deeply. Regardless of her decisions, she just needed some help. So my mother ended up in a relationship with someone who became abusive to her. And this guy actually was not a good influence. He showed my brothers things, illegal things to do. They would smoke weed, drink Mad Dog 2020 Banana Red. That was my mom's drink preference or whatever. And so this behavior was exposed, and there was, of course, sexual abuse in between, not from the guy, but I experienced it in different settings. But it was just a hard, difficult time. But that was actually the last period of stability that we really had with her, because we were living in an abandoned building at the time with that guy. And after that, we went to stay with his mom, who had an in-house shelter. And that shelter is where my mother ended up dying in her sleep. And I'll get more into that in another video. But, as a child, you don't realize all the stuff that happens around you until somebody brings it to your attention. Like, for instance, I had no idea we were poor. I did not know that it was a problem living the way that we were. We would go through the alleys looking for stuff to put into our house wherever we would find a place, if it wasn't a shelter, because we had to recollect items, recollect clothes, things inside the place, because my mom didn't work again. She got food stamps and other welfare benefits, but that would be gone because as soon as she met a guy, he would come over when she got a check or her money, and the very next day, he's gone because he took her money. And then she would be left with trying to figure out what we would do for the whole entire month. And so a lot of times we spent, a few days with no food. We would eat a can of sardines and share them amongst each other. Or we would have a can of cream corn, and that would last us for a few days. And it was talking 4 people, my mom, my 2 brothers, and myself. So it wasn't easy. Luxuries that kids had back then, they can reflect back to their childhood and say, oh, at this time I was having ice cream, I was doing this, I was doing that. I had my jelly shoes, all of these things. We didn't have those things. So I didn't realize we were poor until one day I was playing with my friend who stayed right next to us. And she told me while I was in her room, all pretty, decked out with pink and purple ruffles all over the place, a big, beautiful dollhouse. But she said, my mom really don't want me playing with you because she said, you're dirty and you're poor. And That's the first time I felt shame. And I said, no, we're not. We're not dirty. We're not poor. And she said, yes, you are. Look out the window. And when I looked out the window, there was a hole in the roof. And she said, see, my mom and my grandma say, raining on you guys and snowing on you guys. And you're poor. And you steal electricity from your neighbor. And I was just shocked because I didn't know it was stealing. I knew that we had a cord coming in the house, but I didn't know it was stealing. And so at this time I must have been like 7. But nevertheless, it opened my eyes to some things. And fast forward to when I was 10, after she passed, I remember thinking to myself one day, God, how am I going to survive as an adult? I don't want to be homeless again ever. I don't want to have to scavenge, looking for food somewhere. I don't want to live on a bridge. I was hyperventilating. And God, he really calmed my heart. He calmed me and said, no, it's going to be okay. This is not going to be in your future. And he has not allowed that to be in my future. I thank God he has kept me. And so I'll talk about those things later. But childhood trauma is real, and survival mode is real, and sometimes it takes a long time to get out of it. But when you recognize that you're in survival mode, you no longer have to react to the environment that you once were in, then you can start to breathe a little bit and take care of yourself. But that's a whole nother topic there. But anyway, my mother, again, was not a saint. We all are not. But she was loving. She loved us. And she gave us all that she had. And I appreciate that. And if I could talk to her today, I would let her know that I'm proud of her. And I understand. And it's okay. It's absolutely okay. And look at us now. But look at me. Look at my oldest brother. I'll talk about my youngest brother later. But my mother, I think she would be happy. She would be proud. So that's that. I do have more stories about my mom, of course. I'll talk about that later. But that was one topic I wanted to hit out, the part. Homelessness, all of that. Because people experience that on a daily basis. The hunger, all of it. And it's not fun. So anyhow, I will talk to you guys later. I thank you for watching. Don't forget, I never say this, but subscribe, share the videos, like it, hit the notification bell so you'll know when I'm uploading them, because I'm going to be doing quite a few of these, okay? As always, be kind to one another, be kind to yourself, and I love you guys. Till next time.